Welcome into Four Verts. There is a change in Atlanta as the Falcons have benched Kirk Cousins for Michael Penix Jr. I'm Harrison Graham. The majority of this episode is going to be what is next for Kirk Cousins as his time in Atlanta appears to be cut very short here. Let's first start with Michael Penix, though, as he gets his opportunity. 3 games left. The Falcons are 1 game back of the Bucs in the NFC South. Atlanta does hold the tiebreaker, so if they can end up with the same record, they would win the division. Let's be absolutely clear here. The Falcons had no choice here. They had to bench Cousins, and they had to play Michael Penix. Cousins leads the NFL in interceptions. Over the last 5 games, he has 1 touchdown pass, which was this past week against the Raiders, against 9 interceptions. They barely beat the Raiders, who were starting former Falcon Desmond Ridder. It took defending a Hail Mary to win that game, just to keep their season alive. Had they lost that game, we wouldn't just be talking about benching Cousins, because that's been a topic for weeks. We'd be talking about it's egregious that they took this long to bench Cousins, and people would be calling for Raheem Morris's job 1 year in. So they had no choice. I'm excited to see what Penix can do with 3 games left. Kind of a reasonable starting point here against the Giants to kind of ease him in. And whether they make the playoffs or not this year, it's pretty clear Penix will be their starter going into next season unless this is just a disaster. But I would expect, even if it's up and down, he will be their guy moving forward. So let's talk about Kirk Cousins here now. What is next for the Falcons quarterback? Obviously, he signed a 4-year, $180 million contract, $100 million guaranteed, but over 60 of that was this year in terms of the guarantees. So there's some wiggle room here in terms of will he get traded? Will he not? He does have a no-trade clause. We'll talk about the implications of that as well. And then I've got 3 teams that I think could make sense for Kirk, although he does not look the same off this injury. So we'll kind of dive into that as well. But be sure to subscribe to the channel. Listen, we're bringing you guys daily NFL and college football content. The college football playoff starts on Friday night, Notre Dame, Indiana. We're going to go live here on the channel with a watch party. Myself, producer Cullen, will be providing live commentary, reacting to the first ever college football playoff game in a 12-team system. So be sure to subscribe and join us for that. We'll probably go live like 30 minutes before kickoff. So should be a lot of fun here on Four Verts. Of course, we have daily content reacting to the biggest games in both the NFL and college football, news, rumors, analysis, my takes on everything going on around these 2 sports. Okay, let's talk about the no-trade clause. Kirk Cousins has a no-trade clause. What does that mean? That means that he does not have to accept a single trade. So what Kirk could do here, if he wanted to, is just Russell Wilson this thing. And basically just tell the Falcons, like, hey, I'm not accepting a trade no matter what team it is. I want to pick a team on my own terms. You guys owe me money, $27.5 million. That can just be my salary next year. I'll just go sign for cheap with the team next season. Now, let's say he's willing to waive the no-trade clause. Would a team trade for him? I think there could be a desperate team or two, throw a late-round pick, make Atlanta eat a little bit of that money. I think that's certainly a possibility. But doesn't this feel like Russell Wilson 2.0, where it just hasn't worked in Atlanta for whatever reason? I would say mostly due to coming off the Achilles. He doesn't look like the same player. They have a young guy that they want to see what he can do. It just makes sense to turn the page here. Now, luckily for the Falcons, the implications won't be as severe when you look at the cap hit situation for Kirk Cousins. This is what it looks like. The first row is if he gets cut. Second row is if he gets traded. So if they cut him pre-June 1st, it's $65 million in dead cap next year. Now, they would probably do a post-1 designation, which means it would be 40 this year and 25 the next year. But maybe they do it all in 1 year. We'll have to wait and see. If they trade him pre-June 1st, $37.5 million dead cap money. Again, maybe they'd have to eat a little bit more. Who knows? Post-June 1 would only be $12.5 million. Now, I do not think a team is going to wait until post-June 1st next year to trade for Cousins, because even if you designate it as a post-June 1 trade, he cannot enter that team's building until June 2nd. So I think a post-June 1 trade is off the table. Post-June 1 cut designation, I think teams can do up to 2 of those now. That seems like the most likely with the $40 million dead cap hit where he could go sign with another team right away. They would get that cap relief on June 2nd. So that seems the most likely. Russell Wilson's was like $85 million, so it's not quite as severe in terms of what the penalty could look like. But I think it's pretty safe to say his time in Atlanta is over. And let's be honest, the second they drafted Michael Penix in the first round, unless Cousins just lit up the league this year, it was probably always going to go this way. Play for a season and then get traded or cut. Now, unfortunately for the Falcons, he's played so poorly the last 5 weeks after actually playing decent there for a bit that they're probably not going to be able to trade him, A, due to the no-trade clause, and B, due to the fact he just has not played that well. What do you guys think before we get to 3 teams that I think can make sense for Kirk? Will he get cut or traded? What's more likely? I think considering the no-trade clause, him getting cut is far more likely than him getting traded. Give us your thoughts down in the comments below. I think one team that makes a lot of sense, really for both sides, is the Tennessee Titans. Yesterday we did a video about Sam Darnold. I would think the Titans would be interested in him as well. But if you're Darnold, do you want to go to Tennessee or would you rather stay in Minnesota or maybe go to a team like the Colts with Shane Steichen, a proven offensive guy? The Titans are kind of in this desperation mode. They could actually get Cousins. Southern team, I think that's critical here as well. Team playing in the South because Cousins just does not have a strong arm. You hope a year removed from the Achilles, he can drive off that back foot a little more. That's been a problem this year, but it's led to an already not great arm being even weaker. But if you're playing in Nashville, warm climate, you play in a lot of games in the South, Indianapolis in the division's in a dome, so you'd have a lot of weather-reasonable games. So I think that makes sense. I think they're a team that would be interested, especially if the price is cheap. How about the Colts? I'm pretty confident that the Colts would take a swing at Sam Darnold to pivot off Anthony Richardson. I'm actually not sure they would do the same for Kirk Cousins because a few years ago, the Colts brought in over-the-hill Matt Ryan, ironically from Atlanta, and it was a disaster. He was clearly washed. Is there a chance Cousins could bounce back a year removed from the injury? I think there's a slightly better chance than what we saw from Matty Ice in Indianapolis, but they've kind of been down this road before. I think if it was Kirk Cousins or Richardson, they'd probably just give Richardson another year. Sam Darnold, different story. 27 years old, in his physical prime, strong arm, mobile, having a career year. Cousins, having a bad year, can't move, Achilles injury, 37 years old. So I think they're a team worth mentioning. I actually don't think they're that likely. Destination number 3. I think the Cleveland Browns feel like a wild card. The issue here for me is the weather climate in the division. Cleveland, once you get into October, November, windy, cold, that ball is going to be fluttering. Think about the divisional teams. Pittsburgh, cold and outdoors. Ravens, cold and outdoors. Cincinnati, windy, cold, outdoors. A lot of the AFC teams play in outdoor tough conditions. It's what we talk about with Tua all the time. Sure, when they're at home, it's fine, but when he has to go to Buffalo or the Jets or the Chiefs or wherever, he's not the same quarterback. And I think Cousins is in that category of his physical tools are clearly limited at this point. So I think from Cleveland's standpoint, it could make sense if they can get the Russell Wilson deal where he just plays for the vet minimum because he's probably still better than Deshaun Watson. But I don't think the elements are ideal there. So I think that would be a wild card, which is why I come back here. I think Tennessee stands out because I don't think they're going to be in position to get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, which means what's the best they can do next year? Kirk Cousins on a cheap contract as a bridge guy feels like a decent option for them. Warm weather, you've got a desperate head coach and GM. Just get someone who's got skins on the wall who can play the position. Will Levis has been a train wreck. When you bench him this late in the year, there's probably no going back. So that doesn't seem like a viable option for them moving forward. And you just roll with Cousins next year and hope that he can, be a little bit better physically next year than he was this year. So that would be my guess. That would be my take, that he ends up with the Tennessee Titans. But right now, we'll have to wait and see. Does he waive the no-trade clause? Can they find a trade partner for him? Would he agree to it? All that is up in the air. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. Kirk Cousins' future, we'll see where it all ends up. We'll continue to cover the NFL and college football daily. My name is Harrison Graham. We'll have a video tomorrow. And then Friday Night Lights, Indiana, Notre Dame at Notre Dame Stadium to kick off the 12-team college football playoff. We'll be live with a live watch party, so be sure to subscribe and join us for that. We'll see you soon.